Welcome back. There's been a series of developments in the last 24 hours around the governing African National Congress. Perhaps most importantly was the fact that the chair of the ANC, the Energy Minister, Pule Mabe, was, for a second day in a row, refused by COSATU delegates permission to essentially speak in front of them. He eventually, as he put it, abandoned the COSATU Congress, saying that he wasn't going to grovel. Then, Pule Mabe, the leader of the South African Communist Party, stated again that the SACP is ready to contest elections. All of this came after the former ANC president and president of the country, Jacob Zuma, said in a statement overnight that he was available for the position of ANC chair. And of course, the KwaZulu-Natal ANC today released the names of the people it's nominating for positions in December, including the former Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. To react to all of this now is the spokesperson of the African National Congress, Pule Mabe. Pule, good evening. Thanks for coming in.
Evening and evening to your viewers.
You were invited to come to the COSATU Congress as the ANC. Your national chair was deployed there. Twice he was refused permission to speak. What are you going to do now?
Well, Stephen, we are part of the Tripartite alliance. We are equal alliance partners with the Congress of South African Trade Unions and the South African Communist Party. There are issues that the Labour Federation had raised as it relates to issues of pay increases around the public wage debacle, on the increases there. And this has been something that has been ongoing for quite some time. They have registered their own concerns, even with the relevant minister responsible for public service. So in their own space of conference, if they use that to register their concern, it's important that the ANC, using a platform like the Alliance Secretariat, pays closer attention to the concerns that the Labour Federation might be having. It is important that out in society we are able to, at all times, present an alliance that is united, but of course an alliance that is tolerant of each other, able to listen when other alliance partners have got their own concerns. The ANC is not a big brother in the alliance. If members of COSATU used their own space to ventilate and register their concerns in the manner that it has done, it is not for the first time that the ANC finds itself in situations like this. What the ANC always does when situations like this present themselves, it always navigates through to find a solution, one that could be able to say what steps could be taken much more urgently to deal with the concerns that the Labour Federation is raising.
Okay, but I mean, you've got, for the second day in a row, you're invited to speak, and the chair isn't allowed to speak. I mean, it's a very strong statement. You've got Pule Mabe saying the SACP at the same Congress is ready to contest elections. Let me put it to you like this. Does the Tripartite Alliance still exist right now?
Well, of course, the Tripartite Alliance does exist. We have had very numerous engagements, including on the reconfiguration of the alliance. We have had these views that the South African Communist Party has repeatedly expressed out in the public. We believe that we have got sufficient organizational platforms to be able to attend to all of these issues.
But they're clearly not working, because if they were working, this situation, what we saw today and yesterday, wouldn't have happened.
Well, I mean, we are Democrats. We are part of the alliance itself, exists within the confines of a democratic space. So if they use their space to express themselves in the manner that they have done, it is up to the ANC to pay attention to all those concerns, to work with the Labour Federation to find solutions as it relates to contestation at the polls, alliance partners talking about going it themselves. We have often said that the debate around the reconfiguration of the alliance, it's necessary to be able to guide the steps that we are able to take to monitor actions of individual alliance partners, to check their own commitment towards the implementation of resolutions. More so because both COSATU and the SACP are invited to participate in a policy conference, to also participate, have full speaking rights, even in our own conference. If there are things that they believe the ANC could be doing, which do not augur well with the healthy relations amongst alliance partners. We've got the political council, we've got aside meetings that bring in officials, NOBs of various alliance partners to be able to deal with all of the issues. We've got the alliance secretariat. We've got our own mahotlas. All of these are platforms created to make sure that in the work that we do, as the African National Congress, the leader of the Tripartite Alliance, we are able to accommodate all of the concerns that could be there. We are still very much hopeful that the alliance can still be able to thrive and do its work of providing leadership to the country.
We've heard you on that. I think our politics is changing in a fundamental way that may make it harder to keep the alliance together. If we are moving towards an age of coalitions, ANC probably still the biggest player in our politics, but not the dominant, not getting 60% anymore, right? That means that if you're the South African Communist Party, it's actually easier for you to exert influence by being your own party in a coalition with the ANC. Do you see the point? So if that is the case, if I am right in my analysis, and we're moving into an age of coalitions, it seems that if I were the SACP, I would be preparing. This would be the moment. This is when I would leave. Are you worried about that at all?
Well, we are quite hopeful that through our own continuous engagements with the South African Communist Party, we will be able to find ourselves. But like we have done in the past, they have been moments as much more intense and hectic than the ones that we are now finding ourselves in. When we had to also decide on the leadership question, you should also remember, Stephen, that these issues are playing themselves out in the year that the ANC is to hold its own elective conference. So while there are issues that have got to do, especially on the COSATU side, that they've got to do with the public sector wage concerns. But we also cannot remove the entirety of these issues to the conference of the ANC. COSATU, as I've said, plays an important role in the conference of the ANC. It is able to raise and articulate its own positions as it relates to how workers are being treated on the shop floor, continue to represent their rights, making sure that they get paid fairly in the workplace. So we understand the role that COSATU is expected to play, and the ANC will never in any way seek to take away that important role on why COSATU was in the first place established to play the body politics of our own country, to represent the workers.
There's a lot more to talk about the alliance. There are other things to talk about as well. Former President Jacob Zuma, his statement last night, he's available to be national chair of the ANC. Were you as surprised as everybody else? Did you find it as funny as Gwede Mantashe found it?
Well, I don't know what the national chair would have said, but anyone who's
it was the joke of the year.
But anyone who's a member of the ANC in good standing expresses himself to contest for this or that position, they are welcome to do so. I do not know who has been, because you see, Stephen, pronouncement made by individual members of the ANC, as well as those that ultimately make it to be able to contest, these two things are different. As spokesperson of the ANC, I can only be guided by the process that Comrade Kgalema is expected to lead as the chair of the Electoral Committee. But expressions or statements made by individual cadres or leaders of the ANC, it would be difficult for me to actually enter that space. Because even yourself, if you were a member of Ward 6, you could start making noise around the newsroom building that you are going to stand. I mean, if you believe that falls within your right, we will only know when the ballot boxes are being opened whether there is a name of Stephen amongst those that have qualified to stand for this or that position. What is important is that those that have had the opportunity to lead and guide the ANC have got a bigger role to play in making sure that for generations to come, they could still earn the respect of being former leaders of the ANC. They've got to guide those that must assume leadership positions and leadership roles in the organization. It's very important. You see, ANC, it's an intergenerational organization. It has got those cadres of our movement would have been there during the struggle for national liberation. They're still there. Some of them are in the leadership structures of the ANC. They've got to say to the younger ones that this is the role that the ANC, for its continued existence, must play in society. That part is very important.
Okay. Okay. I need to go back a little bit. The ANC, you're on a path of renewal, is the way that you describe it, and you formally supported the establishment of the Zondo Commission, and you told your members to go and speak at the Zondo Commission, to give testimony, right? That's true. It seems now that we're seeing people like Nomvula Mokonyane, against whom we heard so much evidence at the Zondo Commission around Bosasa, being nominated by KwaZulu-Natal, by Gauteng, by other provinces to positions in December. We see Dr. Zweli Mkhize, nothing to do, the Zondo Commission, as far as I know, had nothing to do with him, but he's been nominated by KwaZulu-Natal despite the digital vibes scandal. Both of these people have not been formally charged. I'm not asking about the step-aside resolution. I'm asking about a more formal, about a more political and moral point, which is that when the ANC says that it is renewing itself, and people against whom such strong allegations have been made are then nominated by ANC structures, do you think voters take the ANC seriously?
Well, maybe, Stephen, without sounding too technical, let me just correct one thing for the benefit of your viewers. Pronouncement by PECs are not equal to nomination. These are pronouncements made by...
I get that.
Yes,
I understand
yes,
that.
I'm going into the issues.
Still stands.
Yes, no, I'm going to the issues you are raising. I'm saying that provincial executive committees have made their views known. These are structures of the ANC that have got exactly the same powers or enjoy the same privileges as a branch. They will participate and vote in the upcoming 55th National Conference. So we will know, the same way that I would have dealt with the previous question, that we will know when ballot boxes are opened and names are announced on who has and who has not qualified to stand for this or that position. Those that are being mentioned or pronounced on those, if they so accept in the intervening period, they are hopefuls up until such time that they are guaranteed to have qualified. But to come to the point that you are raising, they are electoral guidelines. It is only those electoral guidelines that the National Executive Committee, which is the highest decision-making body in between conferences, has adopted, which will effectively be able to guide how this process gets to unfold. Now, let's test this. Where is Comrade really...
I'm sorry, I'm going to put this very, very crisply.
Yes.
The ANC says it's renewing itself and that it's fighting against corruption. And yet it keeps nominating, or its people keep showing strong support for people accused of exactly that, corruption. It keeps happening. That's the point.
Well, Stephen, allegations made against individuals do not translate into those individuals being found guilty. In South Africa, we've got competent courts of law.
And where did innocence until proven guilty get the ANC? It got you to 45%.
No, but let me explain myself. You see, it is unfortunate that many others have begun now predicting the demise of the ANC in 2024, when we are still a year ahead of those elections. There's a lot of work that we are doing on the ground. The ANC as a party is being accepted, as it has been shown, even through our own Mazimas that have taken place in the Free State, in Mpumalanga, and the last one in Limpopo. You will see the same kind of reception when we go to the Northern Cape. Comrade Zweli serves in the National Executive Committee of the ANC. He has not been removed from the NEC because he has not been found to have committed any wrongdoing. It cannot be the ANC that encourages its own cadres to participate in processes of the Zondo Commission. Now the very same ANC now comes and say, oh, okay, just by participation, you are now guilty. Law enforcement agencies, if they believe that there is an iota of evidence against our own individual cadres to be tried in a competent court and be found guilty of such acts, the ANC will act in the affirmative. But the ANC cannot take the law unto its own hands, criminalize its own cadres who have not been tried by a competent court of law. Remember, there is a constitution in this country. The renewal of the ANC does not mean the suspension of the constitution. We still have got to respect the rights of individuals. Why did we opt for the Bill of Rights? If only members of the ANC must then be subjected to different laws that all other South Africans are subjected to, freedom of association, if you are appearing, for instance.
Okay, Pule, I hear all of that. We're going to run out of time in just a second. They've been screaming in my ear for 10 minutes. The point is, it keeps coming down to the same thing. Why do ANC members keep supporting people against whom corruption allegations are made? It doesn't happen in the Democratic Alliance, doesn't seem to happen in the EFF, but it happens in the ANC.
No, it's not true. I don't want to speak about what happens in other parties because I'm going to really, you have already said I've got a few minutes. One day if you invite us to come and talk about what happens in other parties, we'll focus our attention there. But the cadres that we are talking about, now as we speak, show me a court where they are hearing of allegations of corruption or wrongdoing. You see, we can't, Stephen, we can't, out of mention, imagine this, if we will be able to criminalize cadres of the ANC only because they were mentioned on this or that in the press. But
there's findings by the Special Investigating Unit. The family of the health minister benefited from money that went from the health department, from government, during a pandemic. The health department ran out of money to SMS people to tell them to get vaccinated because its money had been taken by digital vibes, Pule. This is the point.
Well, Stephen, show me a section of the SIU report that talks to Comrade Zweli Mkhize being in the wrong. Just a paragraph. He
sent messages to the Director General. That was what he was not supposed to do.
But look, if you say he sent messages, let us now establish in those reports, is there a section of the recommendation? Because I'm not here to defend individual cadres of the ANC. I speak for the organization. I don't speak for individual leaders of the ANC. I speak for the organization in totality. And my role as spokesperson at all times is to assert principles. Now, if there is something in the SIU report that suggests that there is any wrongdoing on the part of Comrade Zweli, it is up to the SIU to point that to the public and say this action constitutes a wrongful act and remedial actions that are being taken to attend this wrongful act are the following. So that the ANC doesn't find itself having to comment and elaborate on issues that fall outside its own authority. Because we do not have the authority ourselves unless it is a matter presided over by our National Disciplinary Committee, by the Integrity Commission, or by the NDCA to then say this cadre is in the wrong. If you are charged and appear in a court of law, relevant rules of procedure in the ANC compel you to step aside. If you do not step aside, the relevant section of the ANC Constitution empowers the subsequent structure to be able to take a decision to place you on temporary suspension. Now, the comrades you are mentioning do not fall in any of those categories. So if they do, such conclusion will be made by the committee led by Comrade Kgalema, not by me as national spokesperson. I do not have that authority.
It's going to boil down to what voters decide in the end. It's not up to me. It's not up to anyone else but the voters. The point is that the ANC consistently says that it's trying to renew itself. People who are accused of corruption end up receiving support in the ANC. At the same time, unfortunately for the ANC, its leader, President Cyril Ramaphosa, suddenly has the Pule Mabe scandal. The point I'm trying to get, again, no findings have been made, no charges have been brought. The point I'm trying to make is that you have a movement which seems to be under fire from all directions. The only way, really, to my mind, that it can make headway with voters is to actually show that it is serious about fighting corruption. And I think that voters are looking for that. I think there are millions of people across this country who actually have a deep love for what the ANC used to be. And by used to be, I mean 10, 15 years ago, for what it used to be. I'm sure you've come across that. You probably know that far better than I do. The problem is that they don't like the ANC now because of corruption. Service delivery is a problem. It's affected by corruption, but corruption's a big issue. How is the ANC proving to them that it is still worthy of their affection and love?
Well, Stephen, the fact that the very ANC that they have loved and still love, the fact that the ANC is still the majority party, you see, winning the seat of government, it's one thing. But being a majority party, it's another thing as well. So we are still a majority party in councils. We're still the majority party in the Republic of South Africa, in the National Assembly. We're still the majority party in in almost all provincial legislatures, with the exception of the Western Cape. But this does not mean that we must be arrogant because of that majority. We have got to, from time to time, pause and reflect. What are the things that we are not doing right? So the ANC uses the concept of self-reflection, self-criticism. We do that at all times because we will not be able to renew ourselves unless we are able to accept and admit where there have been wrongful acts within the party. And what did we do? The introduction of the Integrity Commission, our own articulation, the views we advanced on the restoration of the credibility and standing of the ANC at the 2016 National General Council, 2015 National General Council, further expatiated at the policy conference before the 54th National Conference, and ultimately leading to us adopting a resolution on stepping aside. This was an acknowledgement on our part that there are certain acts committed by our own cadres which do not augur well, or where our own cadres face serious allegations which do not augur well with the public that we are trying to commandeer and lead. We have got to put in mechanisms and measures in place to make sure that the ANC could be able to reclaim its rightful standing in society. It's very important. Of course, Stephen, because we have bestowed on ourselves that mantle of being the leader of society, we are not going to be assessed in the same way that all other parties are. And the day that the ANC accepts to be judged like all other political parties, then it means something is starting to be wrong. Right. The ANC has got to make sure that it occupies that high moral standing in society. And this it can only prove by the things it does and the path it discharges out in the public.
Pule Mabe, National Spokesperson of the African National Congress, I appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much indeed.